everyone, I'm Rihanna Bag, Editor-in-Chief at Machine Design. Automate is the flagship trade show and conference for robotics and automation professionals. This year, the show will be hosted at McCormick Place in Chicago and brings together a cross-section of the industry from manufacturing to logistics to healthcare and consumer electronics. I'm joined today by Jeff Bernstein, President at the Association for Advanced Automation, or A3 as we tend to call it, who has agreed to give us a preview of what we can expect this year, both at the show and an outlook on robotics and automation. Welcome, Jeff.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
I'm very excited to talk to you, but I want to go right into it. I want to go right to the numbers first. I looked at some of your statistics from your recent reports. After record orders in both 2021 and 22, robot sales in North America declined by 30% in 2023. I read that companies purchased 31,159 robots in 2023. That was compared to more than 44,000 ordered in 22 and 39,708 in 2021. Now, these 2023 orders were divided almost equally among automotive and non-automotive companies, which is a 34% drop in sales to automotive OEMs and suppliers over 2022, and a 25% total decrease in all other industries. Okay, lots to digest there. Help me unpack this a bit. Give us your finger to the wind observation on what this all means.
Okay, well, a lot of numbers there. I'll give you my answer from the perspective of someone who's been in this industry now for over 4 decades. Had this have happened in the 80s and 90s, there would have been a lot of concern in the robotics industry. That concern isn't there to that extent. Nobody likes to see the numbers go down. But when you look at why they went down and what we think about the future, you'll realize why there's certainly way less concern now than there would have been in the past. So we were in the midst of a pretty strong growth pre-COVID, and then 2020 came and COVID tanked all of the numbers. It pretty much froze everything. And then in 21 and 22, we had great record years because, one, it was hard to bring people in. So companies had to bring robots in to do a lot of jobs where you couldn't bring in people. You had a lot of new customers coming in. And then you had the issue of supply chain difficulties. It might take you a year to get a robot. So in 2022, companies started ordering to make sure they had enough robots to last them for a while. As a result, you have a lot of companies with a lot of inventory, system integrators, and then you have new customers who, are just getting used to adopting robotics and automation. And so they want to be clear on the ROI before they order more. And then, of course, you had some economic issues, the higher cost of borrowing as inflation hit. So, I mean, there are reasons for that downturn. We expect that to turn back up shortly, likely the second half of this year. But again, if you look at the automotive industry in particular, that's always been a cyclical industry. The non-automotive orders being down, well, the fact that it's equal total to the automotive industry, that's a big win for the overall market for robotics. For years in the early days, the automotive industry accounted for something like 70% of the orders. And we kept saying, we're never going to reach our full potential until other industries start automating. And now it's hard to think of an industry that isn't automating with robotics.
Yeah, that's a great way to bring me to my my next question and my train of thought as I was reading those statistics. So in 2023, the strongest demand for robots from non-automotive companies came from the metal industry, followed by semiconductor and electronics, food and consumer goods, life sciences, pharmaceutical and biomedical, plastics, rubber, and others. But it's the all other industries category that has my curiosity. This category showed an increase of 20% over the previous quarter of Q3 of 2023. The all other industries category includes companies sectors like construction, hospitality, and agriculture. And these are typically new to robotics. Now, robotics and automation solutions for agriculture seems to be bubbling up and increasingly seeping into the conversation, certainly from where I sit. What can you tell us then about expansion opportunities in these types of markets?
Agriculture, construction, life sciences, food processing, all of them have great opportunities ahead. The reason is because we're starting to see new solutions emerge that can help companies achieve their goals. So, for instance, if you're in the agriculture business, one of the things you want to do is reduce the amount of water you use or reduce the amount of pesticides you have to spray. These are good for the environment and great for the planet. So, as robots become smarter and autonomous vehicles in the field become better, you can use robots that way. You can also use them to inspect vineyards, and that's being done to see when are the grapes ready to pick so that you have the best possible outcome in the wine that's being picked. Or strawberries, and that's a crop that I'm told if you don't pick it at the right time, you have to plow it under. You get like a 3-day period. It's hard to find laborers to do some of these tasks now. And with immigration laws tightening, it becomes even harder. So there's more of a push for automation in agriculture. Construction, wow, I mean, there's so much there. Labor shortages there. They're difficult jobs. If robots could play a role, I think we're not quite as far along in construction, at least in the building part. We're doing a good job of, mapping the floor to decide what the layout should be, but that's a big growth opportunity. And then, you name it, hospitals, there's another one. We were contacted recently by Mayo Clinic. They have a whole range of applications that they see for robotics in the hospital. And I think somebody's going to be helping them solve those problems soon.
Yeah, I want to ask a follow-up question about working with or working with industry. For example, you just mentioned hospitals. How closely are you tapping into, or are they tapping into your resources?
Very closely. And they reached out to us, said, look, we want to use more automation if there are solutions that exist. We had them come to our A3 Business Forum in Orlando this year to speak about their needs. And I believe they'll be participating in Automate as well. So yeah, we our goal here is to educate end users on how to successfully apply these technologies and to tell them who's providing the technologies that can help them. So we try and stay as close to the end users as we can.
Mhm. Now, A3 is calling attention to 4 trends that we should be paying attention to. I'm going to call out each one, and I'd love for you to comment on each one. So, artificial intelligence trends taking over the manufacturing industry.
Yeah, taking over might be a little strong, but certainly enabling robots to be more capable. As they get smarter, they can do more tasks. They can, pack boxes better and handle products. And it's really exciting to see what's going on with artificial intelligence, especially now that some of these chat GPT and other technologies have emerged that allow us to talk to the robots and communicate with them. I think that's something to look forward to going into the future.
Yeah, I just wrote an editorial precisely around this idea that AI is taking over motion control, but I say as AI is taking over motion control, but dot dot dot, and we need to certainly unpack what traditional components have to offer and where the needs really are for artificial intelligence, and of course proceed with prudence. So the next one is ease of use robotics and automation and adoption acceleration.
Yeah, ease of use has been a really critical issue for a long time. So, one of the barriers to adopting more robots is that companies thought it was too costly, too complicated, and it was reserved for big companies. And so, if you want to reach small and medium-sized companies, the prices have to come down. That's happened in robotics. You need to make sure that they're simple enough to take out of the box and start using quickly so that ROI can be realized quicker, and we're making progress there. And now companies are coming along with no program or low program industrial robots. We're coming out with fixed solutions for applications that we wouldn't have thought of a long time ago, such as collaborative robots for welding. So I think this ease of use is going to open up adoption into a whole bunch of new spaces. Companies don't really have the trained workforce anymore that they need. That's actually a barrier to adopt more automation. So if it's not simple, it's going to be hard for the end users to implement. So we've made great progress there. Different models of paying for it. Traditionally everything had to be a big capital expense, but now you have robots as a service, which makes it easier to scale up quicker.
Yeah. So choosing the right solution for the right problem.
Right solution for the right problem and at the right cost. That's important to companies. And make it simple enough so that even the small companies can use it, not just big auto companies.
Okay, the next one is mobile and collaborative robots driving industrial innovation. Do tell.
Those are both really important. As you've seen the explosion in e-commerce, that whole logistics field becomes super important to all of us. I mean, we hit our buy button on Amazon and we want our product there tomorrow or today even. Autonomous mobile robots are playing a big role in making sure that happens. Companies like Amazon and Target and Walmart have a whole lot of autonomous mobile robots as well as other robots in their facilities. When you look at collaborative robots, traditionally, as you know, robots had to be separated from people. They were usually behind fences so that people didn't get hurt. We've done a great job over the years with our robot safety standards to make sure that there are very few industrial robot involved accidents. But collaborative robots, when you're working side by side with a person, you really have to have an even greater level of certainty that people aren't going to get hurt. And so there's standards for that as well. And these new applications, like I mentioned, welding and machine loading, and all of these applications that collaborative robots are now capable of that they weren't in the early days. Maybe they didn't have the payload. Maybe they didn't have the throughput. Maybe they weren't safe enough. But now we're really seeing great advances in that space, which is why these are two of the fastest growing, if not the two fastest growing areas in all of robotics.
Right. Okay. The final one I want to call out is how the factory of the future is here now.
The factory of the future is obviously changes over time. So whatever it is now will change. But what you have now certainly are all these technologies available. Data is so critical where you're getting so much more data tied to, the whole Internet of Things technologies. And so it's an exciting time for companies that want to automate their processes, often driven by the fact that they can't find enough people. And so I'm really excited about the futuristic look of today's factory compared to what it looked like 40 years ago when I got started. However, there's a lot more to go. And we've certainly seen a lot of hype around humanoid robots. And while they're just in pilot phases right now, there is something to look for. That you may see factories in the future with a lot of humanoids in them or warehouses with a lot of humanoids, but we don't know that yet. And I think the hype has gotten a little ahead of itself. But the future factories will still look different than they are today. We haven't reached the end of the game here.
Okay. So I want you to talk about Automate this year. It's taking place May 6th to 9th this year at McCormick Place in Chicago. And this is the first time back in 5 years, I believe, in Chicago. Why are we going back? And is this going to be the venue going forward?
Well, it is our first time back in 5 years. Last time we were there in 2019, we were co-located with the ProMat show.
Hmm.
This time we're on our own, and the show will be more than double the size it was when we were in Chicago last, as we've been growing rapidly since we ended our co-location. We had two great shows in Detroit in 22 and 23, and we're excited to be going to Chicago in part because they have more space for our future growth of our show. So we'll be taking the whole South Hall this year, and then hopefully in the future, when we return to Chicago, will take even more space. Now, our show is every year now. It had been an every other year show. So next year we will be in 2025, we'll be in Detroit again, and then we'll be back in Chicago in 2026.
Okay, that's great. Detroit is closer to me. I'm in Toronto, so it's easy to get there. And that's in fact, that's where I've been going, for the past couple of times that I've been.
Yep.
So, fill us in on any other plans for Automate this year. What should I look forward to?
We've got a lot of exciting things. I mentioned humanoid robots. We have a whole panel on humanoids with some of the leaders in the space talking about where we are with that technology and where it's headed. We have great leadership panels with industry executives speaking about the trends that they see. We have, 4-day conference, actually 5 days if you're in the certification program, with all kinds of courses on motion control and robotics and machine vision and AI. And a couple new things or newer things. One of the newer things is our Automate Startup Challenge, which will feature 10 startup companies competing for a $10,000 prize. That's one of the things that I get excited about because you get to see new companies emerging and new technologies that really can grow into something significant, as we've had many of our past contestants in that startup challenge really grow into successful companies. The other thing that's new this year is a women's empowerment forum, and I'm really looking forward to that because it's really important as we develop this robotics industry and motion and vision, all of these industries, the AI that we're a part of, is that we get everyone involved that we can, the talents of everybody. And we currently aren't taking full advantage of everyone in the way that we have all these great jobs available. We need as many smart minds as we can get involved. And so we're going to focus on how we can get more women involved in automation at this first time forum that we're doing at Automate.
Well, that's a great call to action for sure. I'll be there.
Great.
Jeff, thank you so much for your insights. It's genuinely been a pleasure to have you join us. Thank you.
Well, it's been my pleasure, and thank you for having me, and happy to chat anytime. Look forward to seeing you at Automate.